Hey guys, thought I'd try out the live stream option. I've got a laptop, so I thought I might as well try and do something a bit more whizzy with it if I can. I was going to talk to you guys today about the return of Big Z, Zydrunas Savickas, to World's Strongest Man next year. So just wait and see if anyone's going to join, because this is a bit of an out of the blue decision to try and do something a bit more fancy with YouTube. I'm posting lots of videos of me talking about the World's Strongest Man scores, and then obviously a couple of videos today with some of the lifts and stuff that happened on the day. So I'll start talking about Big Z. So Zydrunas Savickas, where do we start? He is the greatest strongman of all time. You can debate it. You can say you like this guy or that guy, but in essence, he's the greatest. Reasons for that, I've got quite a few. Thought I'd start off with a couple of his titles. He is a 4 times World Strongest Man champion, and he is a 2 times IFSA World Strongest Man champion. So that means he's got 6 titles. So that's one more than Mariusz Pudzianowski. So he's the greatest of all time. He's also got 8 Arnold Classic titles. He won 6 back-to-back. I think that's from 2003 onwards. He's got multiple records, things like the log press, the Hummer tired deadlift. He's got a record there. Hi Giuseppe, how are you? And it says it, and he had it with a hard field too. Yeah, that's correct. So Zydrunas was competing in a harder time technically. You know, Mariusz maybe had easier competitors where those guys had moved to IFSA, and he was having to compete against the best of the best. So, you know, he is the greatest guy there is, really, in terms of, you know, the most lifts, the most records, some of the heaviest lifts. I mean, you could argue people like Eddie Hall have done things like a 500 kilo deadlift. Hafthor's lifting heavier weights than some of the athletes have ever lifted. But when you look back in the course of time, for the last 100 years, the athlete that's got the most titles, the athlete that has competed the most and won the most is Zydrunas Savickas. So the reason I wanted to do today's video is to talk about his comeback, something I'm really excited about. I'm a big fan of Big Z. I've got his Big Z t-shirt on today, repping for Big Z. He came and did a tour with me last year. He actually came to England, and we did 8 gyms around the UK, met loads of fans. He then went on and did a little tour in Australia, and he also did a tour in America. So I managed to get him over to about 30 plus seminars, different gyms, meeting different fans. So, you know, he got about last year, and he had the time to do that because, as he was telling me, and this is why I wanted to share that with you guys, he was winding down a little bit because he's had an injury. So let's go. They had a very, very heavy yoke for a few meters, and they always do that at the Arnold Classic. They seem to like these really heavy yokes, which are quite dangerous. And so it was like 700 kilos, 1,500 pounds. And as he's walking in practice with this, just training in Lithuania, he hurt himself. He got injured, and he dislocated, detached. There was some issue with a delt at the top here, and he had some nerve damage running from his neck down to his shoulder area. And this massively affected things like his pressing ability. So, you know, he's pressing, and one side is just not, it's just not firing right. So he had to cut a lot of weight. And you'll remember Big Z was quite big at a point in time, hence the name Big Z. And he lost a lot of weight to kind of allow the guys to get in there and really work on those injuries. And Tim Jenkinson, how you doing, buddy? He's saying that he will come back stronger for sure. And I really hope he does, because I think we need Big Z right now. I think Thor's having a bit of a party. Martins did great. He won World's Strongest Man. Bryan seems to be looking to sort of change tact and actually drop some weight also. Like losing weight is like the latest thing. Like Terry Hollins has lost some weight. Eddie Hall is losing some weight. Bryan Shaw is losing some weight. Jesus, you never thought you'd hear that. He's very much, you know, wanting to be bigger and stronger. But as it showed this year, it's kind of world's strongest, fastest man now. Or maybe that's what it's always been. And people have got a bit too used to just static lifts and the heavy lifts of the Arnolds. So yeah, so back to Big Z. Basically, he's been recovering for quite a while now, so a couple of years. He tried to make a comeback 2 years ago or a year ago, struggled. I think he made the final of World's Strongest Man last year, came 10th and got injured. But a year or two before that, he did win a Giants live show, which was great. I think that was probably he may not, say it is, but I think personally he's got to feel that's one of his biggest accomplishments for the last 5 years, because he came back from a period where he'd been off injured. He beat the entire field at a good mix of events and took the title in the UK. And recently we saw him do a team show event in Lithuania, and he won the title there as well. So he's back. And the last time I checked in with him, he was planning on coming back around September time, probably to tie in with the world's ultimate strongman show, which is held in Dubai. I believe that's run by Mark Boyd. I think Eddie Hall's got a hand in that. Some of the Giants Live guys are referees, people like Darren Sadler's there doing some refereeing. So, everyone's involved in that show. And I think he wants to come back for that one because it's quite a big one. And it actually also has the most prize money, somewhere around $70,000 for first prize. So, that's quite a lot. And these guys need to earn some money. This is their jobs. This is what they do for a living. So they're always going to be looking for the big shows. So yeah, Big Z's looking to come back around September. There's also a Giants Live show in September as well, the World Giants Tour or something. They kind of added an extra one in, like they've been doing every year. So it used to be Britain's Strongest Man, Europe's Strongest Man, and then that was kind of it. And then the sport has grown massively. So Giants Live, Colin Bryce, Darren Sadler stuck their heads together and came up with the deadlift championships, which they kind of butted on the beginning of Europe's Strongest Man. I think that's right. And then that kind of took over. So they wanted to create a show where they could have that kind of separate. So they did the Giants Live Tour, which went quite well last year and the year before. They then did a log lift championships, which they again butted on. It works very well on the front of one of the shows. And they also did a max axle one year as well. So they're trying to really create opportunities for records within the show, which I think is great. It adds something else, something different to it being just a 5 or 6 event sort of strongman day, strongman show. And this year they've added a Wembley tour as well, or a Wembley event, which is happening next weekend. So that will be interesting. But again, Zydrunas will not be competing because he's not ready. He's still recovering. He's been getting plasma injections. I've seen photographs. And the most recent post I have on my phone here, it was from Thursday this week. So he actually posted rehabilitation for 2020 going very well. And Big Z he's not one to kind of mince his words. If he was still injured, he probably wouldn't have said. But he says he's starting to miss the bigger competitions again. So he's obviously had his rest time. He's done low, and he's looking to boost back up now. So I think once he's happy that the nerve damage has been treated, you should start to see some faster deadlifts and some faster overhead presses, because where we weren't sure how he was doing, I've noticed a lot of his lifts are a bit slower, and the weights on the log are a little bit lighter. I say lighter, we're looking at 200 plus kilos, for reps, but it's not the 225, 228 that we're looking for him to kind of be doing, maybe 230 for, a record. So I'm hoping that this is a good sign for Z. He's feeling good. And if anyone can come back and do this, Zydrunas Savickas is the guy. Think back to things like the Arnold Classic 2016, where he wasn't first place for a lot of the events. It's in the video Born Strong. So if you haven't seen that, check it out on Netflix. It's free if you've got Netflix. And basically he was, I'm not sure, I think he was in second place going into the last event, and Bryan Shaw had to come fourth and Zydrunas had to win. And not only that, 2 other people had to get in between Bryan. I think it was 2 or 3 people had to get in between Bryan Shaw and Zydrunas for him to take the victory there. And that's just what happened. Absolute madness. Z won the frame carry, which was actually the event he won the first time he won the Arnold Classic back in 2003, which is when he first met Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was his hero, my hero, everybody's hero, if you're sort of our age. And then Thor went faster than Bryan, Mateus went faster than Bryan, and Lalas went faster than Bryan, and Z won it by half a point. And that's how close these guys are in competition. So if Zydrunas has just got a very small injury, it's massively going to make a difference to his confidence, his speed, how heavy he's willing to go. And you just think in the back of his mind, he's always got, I'm just not sure if something's going to go. And so I'm hoping these recent posts are a sign that he's feeling a lot better. So let's just have a quick look at some of the comments. What have we got here? So yeah, Tim Jenkins, he'll be back for sure. He'll come back stronger. Darren Phelan, hi mate, how you doing? He says, can't wait to see him back. I think we're all missing him. You know, Big Z is strongman. He is world's strongest man for me. And Bryan Shaw. Don't forget Bryan. Those guys had some great battles, didn't they? For a good couple of years, for about 6-7 years, they were the only guys that did win world's strongest man. Everyone else was kind of, you know, they turned up, but Bryan and Zydrunas just dominated. And it's good to see some of the new guys pushing the boundaries and breaking through. People like Mateusz Kieliszkowski, Martins Lisis, you know, all these younger guys coming through. It's what's needed. The sport needs some new blood. The Stoltman brothers both making the final this year. That was also really great to see. They've been sort of doing this for a while now, and everyone keeps saying Tom's going to be the next best thing, and you know he's going to win it. And I'm sat there going, I hope he does, but you know he's got to make the final, and then he makes the final, and he came 5th, and he didn't have his bag. If you didn't know, Tom's bag got lost at the airport. So not only did he come 5th place, he didn't have his kit bag. So imagine what he could do if he had all of his equipment, his wrist wraps, his belt, his own stuff that he's trained in all year. You know, that could have made a big difference for him. So next year, exciting stuff for the Stoltman boys. Be good to see what they can do. Yeah, Tim's also said it's been a hard year for Bryan. I think he has been hampered by a few injuries. We're hoping to see him come back. He's posted on his blogs and videos that he's looking to cut some weight. So it'll be interesting to see how much he cuts. Hey, Jared, he's put, yeah, I could live for years on 70 grams. 70 grams. Not sure what you mean there, man. Eric, Big Z for sure has the most impressive strongman career, but unfortunately, I don't think he'll be fighting with the top 5 in the world again, purely due to his age. So age is a big question. I'm 39, nearly 40, and I feel it. I go to the gym and I do not very heavy weights, and by the end of the week, I'm pretty banged up and pretty sore. My squat's not great. My overhead press is around 102.5 kilos, so it's not bad. I'm a natural guy, so not massive, not, you know, excessively strong or anything. But people like Z and that, you know, they're going to start struggling with old age. But is he old? I think he's 42. Mark Felix is 52, or is he more than that? I think it's Mark 56. So if Felix has got 10 years on Z and Z's the greatest of all time, then Z's got to have some more time in the tank, surely. He could the Masters tournaments. He has already, but he could keep winning the Masters for a few years. There's nothing to stop him podium, you know, world's strongest man or Arnold's. If you think about it, you know, Zydrunas, everyone was here. Zydrunas was here for quite a few years, and it's taken these last 3-4 years for everyone to kind of catch him up, build on their strength, and sort of start pipping him to the post. But let's be honest, he's injured. So a bit like Hafthor not winning worlds this year. Would 100% Hafthor have won worlds? I don't know. Martins was really great this year. I mean, everyone's saying, you know, it's not as heavy as it used to be and things like that, but it's rubbish. The squat was the heaviest squat they've ever had at Worlds. Some of the other events, you know, they're not lightweights. I think we've been spoiled. We've been too used to guys just smashing the weights, and we just assume it's easy. We assume it's light. They chuck in a 600 kilo yoke and a 340 kilo squat, and the guys make it look so easy that we're saying, oh, it's not hard enough. But actually, there was more injuries this year in World's Strongest Man than I think there's ever been. So we've got to be careful. We don't want to bust up all our athletes and not have anyone for the rest of the season, because there are other shows. It's not just World's Strongest Man. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this year anyway. I think I've already covered that on a few videos, but yeah, last week, where has that gone? Spent the whole weekend looking at the screen, talking about Worlds, but it's what we love, it's what we follow, and it's why we're here, kind of thing. So I've got some other questions here. Listening to you on the headphones at the gym at 5:30 on a Sunday morning in Brisbane. Hey Scott, how are you? From Queensland, Australia. What do you think of criticism of World's Strongest Man 2019 by Shaw and Loz? To be honest, I've seen some of these videos. I can't watch everything, but the guys aren't happy. They need to start standing together. I've joked about some kind of athlete, I I don't know, team, or you know, they all basically need to club together, because no athletes is no show. And I think the promoters are taking liberties with these guys. Lawrence has come back and he's now not going to be able to train for a year or compete for a year. This is his job. And you kind of think, you weren't told the events before you came out there. And then they put the events that, you know, then they put the wrong weights on some of the yokes, not all of them, but for the first group, I believe, that did the yoke, they were off by 100 kilos. So Hathor sort of tweaked his foot. And you could argue, well, yeah, but he did that before on the farmers, or maybe he did it with the monster truck pull. But they need to know what they're lifting. And like Lawrence said, if he knows what the weights are, then he can prep for those weights. If you don't know what the weights are, it's all very well doing a 300-400 kilo yoke run for speed, which is kind of where it's been at, maybe a little bit heavier. But to come up against something that's 600 kilos and only have to walk it sort of, was it 3 meters? What's the point? I mean, they have that at the Arnold Classic, and I think it's a little bit further, but I kind of think if it's for 3 meters, then what's the point? It's not far enough. It's not really. I mean, it is a test of strength, but it's going to cause more injuries than actually look great, because they kind of ran with the first yoke, dropped it, went to the second one, and then, you know, some guys moved it, some guys didn't, and it just makes the guys look silly as well. You know, I mean, it's not their fault. It's 600 kilos. So I think a little bit more, like they've said, they need to let the athletes know what the events are well in advance. People already know when Arnold Classic is next year. They know where it is. They're going to have an idea of some of the events. Jan Todd does a great job doing that with Steve Slater. They're a really good team there. It's not down to Colin Bryce or Darren Sadler. There's multiple people involved with World's Strongest Man. You've got IMG have a hand in it. Rogue probably definitely have a say now, because they're the equipment sponsor. You'll notice in the overhead press medley, they had these 2 dumbbells that they had to lift and press, which were Rogue sort of fat dumbbells, a bit like a bumper plate, but it was like a chunky bumper with Rogue on it. So they always have to kind of slip one of their bits of kit in there each year. And they had the elephant bar at the Arnold Classic, and that's great. There's no issue with that. But let the guys know. I mean, when are you making these decisions? You really can't be making it 2 weeks or a month before the actual show, because you need to make this stuff or have it readily available. So, yeah, I think that Bryan and Loz hit the nail on the head there. I think some of the guys might not feel comfortable speaking up about it. They don't want to have that jeopardize their invitation. We joke about that. Oh, you know, you can't say anything, or you might not get an invitation. But you know, it could happen. Maybe it has happened. Unfortunately, this year, a couple of guys didn't get to go because of visas. You know, Payman Maripur, I'm not going to get his name right. But those guys couldn't get into the country because of visa issues in America. Any other country probably would have been okay. But because there's been some recent changes, those guys were unable to make it. And where would they have come? I mean, it was a different show this year. And you kind of think, you know, Terry Hollands, if Terry was competing this year, how would he have done? So hopefully they don't change too much next year. So when Terry's back, and hopefully it's maybe in a different country where everyone can get there, then it will make a difference to who's competing, and we can see some of those old names back again, and Big Z, which is the whole kind of point of this video. What else have we got here? I would say he's done just yet. He's such a legend. Look at all the world records he's had. Yeah, that's Tim again. Hi, Tim. Yeah, so many world records. I was going to bring them up here because I know most of them, but I don't know all of them. So Audrina Savickas, greatest strongman of all time. Let's just do a quick run through. 4 times world's strongest man. So he won the world's strongest man title in 2009, 2010, 2012, and 2014. So, you know, spanning quite a few years there. And he was a great strongman before that. And he has quite a few second places. So if you weren't aware of that, he's actually got 6 second place trophies as well. So he came second in 2002, 2003, 2004. So that would have been pretty harsh. 2011, 2013, and 2015. Then we move on to Arnold Strongman Classics. He has 8 titles. 2003 to 2008, he pretty much won that every year for 6 years. He then won it again in 2014. That was the same year he won World's Strongest Man, wasn't it? So he actually won both titles that year. And 2016, where he beat Bryan Shaw by half a point. So there's those titles. He's then Lithuania's strongest man. So most countries have their own sort of strongman. England's strongest man, Iceland's strongest man, which is Hafthor for the last sort of 8-9 years, and Zydrunas Savickas, Lithuania's strongest man, 15 times. So that's quite a few. There's not many years he hasn't won it, and there was a 1 year at least I know he couldn't compete because he was doing another show. So he probably would have won that as well. So that's just madness. Quite a few Strongman Champions Leagues that he's won also. If you go onto Wikipedia and put his name in, you can do what I'm doing and scroll through and see all these first places, which just lights up the screen. 3 times he's won Europe's Strongest Man in 2010, 12, and 2013. Just to let you know that Hafthor's got 5 Europe's Strongest Man titles, and Mariusz Pudzianowski's still top with 6. So next year is the big one. Can Hafthor tie Mariusz in Europe's? And will he go on to take 7? So that would be another record that he's taken. So I don't think anyone's going to have everything. To do that, Zydrunas would have to win, a handful of Europes and a handful more Worlds. I don't think that's going to happen. I do think Zydrunas is going to do well at Worlds next year. I think he's going to come back fully recharged, hopefully fully repaired, and people are going to be in trouble. He's going to be gunning for the final, and when he makes the final, he's going to want some redemption, because I think the last time he did World's Strongest Man, he wasn't happy with his performance. He did the best he could with what he had. He's not that old. He really isn't. People thinking he's 42, he's done. Mark Felix is proof of that, and Zydrunas is better than Mark. So, you've got to give Z a bit more time. I think next year will be really exciting for us, the fans. He's going to either come back and smash it, or he's going to be back doing something else. And also, interestingly, I'll touch on briefly, Bryan Shaw mentioned in his recent video that he's going to come back next year, but he's not sure how many more years he'll compete at World's Strongest Man. So that was really shocking, because I know Bryan. He's been here. He stayed at my house. We've trained together. He's done a tour twice with me in England. So we spoke at length about all sorts of stuff. And I was under the impression he wanted 6 titles, and he probably does. But maybe they've had enough of World's Strongest Man. Maybe they're really not happy with the way it's being run, the equipment, the changes of events, the waiting times between lifts. All those sort of things are obviously pissing them off. So maybe that's not the case. But as someone's mentioned in the feed here, they've mentioned it in their video, and they generally won't do that unless they feel really strongly about it. So you probably won't see many comments made about World's Strongest Man now. It's a week ago, and they've moved on, but they obviously felt the need to say something. So interesting to see what Bryan does 2021 when I'm 41. Same age, almost the same age as Big Z. So someone's put, I want Martin Lisis in Finland. So Kimmo's looking to get Martins over. So Martins, if you're watching this, someone in Finland's looking to book you possibly. I know you've got a seminar tour in China, so maybe when you're back from that. We've got Darren says, some guys handle age better than others. That's true. Why is World's Strongest Man not coming to Europe anymore? Not sure. A lot of the reasons they have World's Strongest Man in these faraway countries is because they pay them lots of money. It's basically, that's it. So World's Strongest Man puts it out there and says which country would like to host this year. It's more than £1 million, I believe, to actually have the show come to your country, or part of the country. Bradenton in Florida was chosen this year. They must have stumped up the cash somehow. And what that does is it brings tourism to the area. And there was lots of comments on, the restaurants were booming, people were buying food and shopping locally, and it raises a big awareness of the area. So £1 million sounds like a lot of money to me and you guys, but for these big companies or these big councils or these big communities, it's not a lot of money when you think about they probably made more than that with promotion and money from food, sales of things in local stores, and the booms to the businesses that were there for the 4 days. I just think it could have been better promoted locally, because I did hear from people that went down there that some people just rocked up. They were like, oh, there's a crowd of people, what's going on? And, it's World's Strongest Man. If I lived in that town, I'd have known, I would have been there, like sleep on the beach, whatever it took. Because apparently if you weren't at the front of the pack and you were sort of 2 or 3 behind, you just couldn't see anything. And that again was a shame. I think America, they're really good at doing things really big. So you could have had like some tiered seating, like at least on 3 sides, which would have been a nice backdrop with just a massive crowd. And people could have gone freely to and from that during the day, grabbing drinks. They should have had an ice cream van, a drinks van, maybe a party afterwards for everyone who was there, a disco, fireworks. I got all these great ideas, but they cost money. So maybe that was the issue. And maybe it was just about making a TV show. But next year, some tiered seating would have taken 5 minutes for the final, for the final, where it stays in that same sort of pen area for the full day. I don't see why they couldn't have done that. But that's just my idea. More rambling from me. What else have we got here? Finland's strongest man, 1997. It says Ilkka Numistola. So is that the guy that won it in Finland? Is it in 97? I'm not good at all the history. I know some of it, but not all of it. Bryan Shaw's your guy if you're looking for scores and who won what and which year. He's very good at that. We did a bit of strongman trivia, and I was actually shocked how much I didn't know and how much he did know. So the biggest strongman fanboy that I'm aware of is Bryan Shaw. He knows more about anything than everyone. So if you're interested in anything, send him a message on Facebook or Instagram. I'm sure he'll come back to you. What else have we got here? They should just get together and make something better. The athletes are doing all the prompt and building the promotion, and building the sport anyway. Exactly, they are. And the other problem is there's too many different camps. You've got the Arnold Classic over here. You've got World's Strongest Man over here. You've got Strongman's Champions League down here. You've got Ultimate Strongman up here somewhere. There's lots of different promotion companies. You've got Strongman Corporation as well, looking after all the amateur guys and sorting out all the qualifiers for the Arnold Classic. So Dion's doing a really great job there too. So there's lots of different people involved with the shows, and the problem is everyone's got their own priorities, and I think the athletes kind of have to pick and choose where they want to go. You'll see a couple of names have done more Arnold Classics recently. People like Jerry Pritchett, Dimitar Savatinov. They were at Worlds for quite a few years on the trot, and now they've decided Arnold's is more achievable for them, not in terms of winning it, but the dates are better. They get the information up front. They know what they're doing and when it's happening. So maybe that's the way to go. Just maybe Worlds isn't the only one now. They've got some competition of their own, not just the competition, but competition from the other shows. So they really do need to step it up a gear, because once the athletes lose interest, they've got no show, and they might be able to pull together a few sort of lower graded athletes, but it's not going to pull the viewers, or at least not us, the hardcore fans, because we'll go with the athletes went somewhere else. Then that's where the party is. That's where the show is. The other guys as well. I mean, you can't have a show with the people you haven't, with people you've been following not there. It just doesn't work. What else have we got here? I don't think Big Z could ever podium again. David Forbes, I hope you're wrong. People thought he was written off in 2016 when he won the Giants live show, and he came back and beat everyone. Thor, Eddie Hall. Eddie's retired now, so he hasn't really got to prove anything. But again, Eddie's another athlete that's not done. He could come back. He must be killing him to watch these athletes compete, and he's definitely still up there. He just needs to decide what he's doing. Or maybe he also has had enough of the way things are run, and he'd rather take a back seat and actually help make some changes, which I think is what he does with Giants now. So he's working with Giants Live to help promote their shows in the UK, and also the World Ultimate Strongman in Dubai. So he's gone to promoter's sort of side instead, because he gets a bit more control that way, I think. And it probably hurts a lot less when you're not having to lift those heavy weights. But yeah, good that he's still involved, and he does the commentary for the UK version of Worlds as well. So it'd be fun to see what he has to say, and if there's any outtakes of him, I don't know, having a laugh and poking some fun at some of the guys, because I think that's the personality side that we don't get to see from the athletes, where they're all a bunch of jokers, really. They all like to have fun. They're all really laid back. There's no one's like, over the top or anything. Everyone's just really nice, and that's why we like it, because you can see that on the show itself. It comes across. You get some of their characters just a little bit from watching it. What else we got here? Maybe a separate event for athletes over 40 could be interesting. Well, yeah, World's Strongest Man. Giants Live do a Masters, but World's Strongest Man don't. And we did think that anyone that won the Masters show should get an automatic invite to Worlds. So Ken McClelland, who was actually an equipment tester this year and actually injured himself on the monster truck pool probably should have got an invitation based on him winning the Masters show. It's not my decision, and I don't know how much decision Colin and Darren have, but unfortunately Ken was unable to do that. But maybe next year they'll look into that and think, you know, if Mark Felix can get an invitation and Ken beat Mark, then maybe they need to let Ken have a go. He's very good all round, and he did really great at the Giants Live version and the Ultimate Strongman Masters show also. So fingers crossed for Ken to come back next year and get his shot for Worlds. I think everyone should get a chance. I think some athletes have maybe been there quite a few years, and there's a couple of other names that are missing out. So if you guys are listening, you know, go and do a giant show, do a qualifier, give them no excuse not to give you that invitation. And then hopefully we'll see you there next year. What else we got? Will they dump the stupid second and third heat elimination system? Novikov not being in the final was ridiculous. Scott Emerson. I completely agree. I don't want to disrespect Trey, because Trey's a great athlete and he smashed it. I mean, he deserved his place in the final once he won that stone loading. And unfortunately, they were the rules, and he won fair and square. And everyone wanted Novikov to win because he did so well against Bryan and some of the other events. And he had a 7-point lead over Trey going into that stone eliminator. And I think they should go back to, they've got two options in my mind. They can either go back to how it used to be, where the top two go through from the final 5 events or 6 events as it used to be. They keep trimming this down. They think we don't notice, but we do. There was only 5 events in the final, and we're used to 6. And there used to be 8 at one point. So they really have cut it down. Plus, there was less athletes this year. We had 25 instead of 30. So all this cutting back makes you think that, you know, is IMG losing interest? Are they not making the money that they need to make? And are they going to bin it and sell it off? Normally, World's Strongest Man's filmed over 2 weeks, and they filmed it over 4 days. So everything's being squeezed, all the margins, athletes are unhappy. So they're obviously not being very well taken care of, sat in a hot tent and, you know, just being left to wait hours in between events. There's definitely more that Worlds can be doing. So hopefully they will. But yeah, I hope they ditch the stone. And the other option, which I was going to suggest, was 30 athletes or 25 athletes or 20 athletes, whatever this number is going to be. Everyone does all the events. They have 12 events over whatever the time is, whether it's 4 days or 2 weeks. I don't really care. Let's call it 4 days. They do 12 events. They do 3 events a day. And the winner is the person with the highest score overall across all events. That way you can test everything, and no one has anywhere to hide. So you do loading, you do max weights, you do reps, you do overhead, deadlift, squat if you want to. You've got 12 events, so you can get anything you need in there. Stones doesn't have to be the last event, does it, every year? Or maybe it does. I don't know. It's kind of, I think if they changed out stones for something else, it would feel a bit wrong, wouldn't it? But there's definitely 12 events they could do. And if everyone could compete, everyone would get a bit more airtime, and everyone would get to stay for the full duration. What happened this year is, after the first 3 days, if you didn't make the final, they stick you on a plane and send you home. Like Lawrence, he was injured. So it was like, you know, can we get Lawrence home as quick as possible, because he needed to get seen to, which is the right thing to do. But why wasn't there someone there maybe who could have taken care of him to the degree that he didn't have to leave? Because they've come a long way to do this. And it's always a shame when the guys that are competing don't get to see their friends in the final. You know, if I was there, I wouldn't want to suddenly disappear off and miss it. But yeah, that's just the way they run it at the moment. And hopefully they'll listen to some of this, and not from me, but from the athletes, and make some changes. We've also got, is it Mira's World's Strongest Man and Arnold's becoming more similar? Yes, it is, with the heavy yoke, definitely. There used to be a big difference in terms of mobility and static in the second. So yeah, Arnold's has got lighter, World's has got heavier. So maybe the guys that run Arnold's is, you know, I mean, they've always been the trendsetters. They've always stuck new events in the bag over bar. But now Rogue are involved in both. It's kind of a bit of a conflict of interest, maybe. Rogue are choosing the events, maybe choosing the equipment. And, you know, people are working in both camps. How does that work? Who's in charge? It doesn't matter who's actually running it, but who's making the decisions. And maybe that's why it's becoming more of a blended show. And if you've got a show that's very similar to another show, then why do we need two? But Arnold's is a completely different tournament, and it has its own qualifiers. I don't see that changing or going anywhere. Hopefully it continues for many years to come. And it's almost as long as, it's almost as old as Worlds, but Worlds is obviously the one that started everything. So I hope that Worlds it sticks around also, because looking at the changes that IMG are making, it does make you wonder, are they cutting ties with it, and are they reducing down things? But we'll find out next year. Every year we find out at the last minute. So I don't think next year is going to be any different, unfortunately. I'm really hoping when Bryan retires, he makes an event as he would do it right. Yeah, I think that was another thing when we were on the tour together. Bryan Shaw spoke to me, and we did touch on the fact of, could we run our own show? I was suggesting that maybe I did something with him, helped him do something maybe in England, in the UK. But we're also apparently going to get an Arnold Classic England. So there might be something next year in London or Leeds or Manchester or Birmingham. Locations not being said or spoke about yet, but there could be something happening here anyway. But in terms of an actual tournament or a show, Bryan Shaw is more than capable, more organised to do something like that, and he could do it, and cut the athletes in, and they could all do it together. So I can't see that not being an option, and definitely something that would keep him very busy, should he decide to step away from the comps that he does. But it would need to be worth his while, and it would need to be something that he could do as a job. So whether he decides to go up against other promoters, we'll find out. But it's a lot of work, and it's probably a lot harder than it looks, and it's easy to talk about things, but we'll see what happens. See what happens with that. Eddie comes across as a bit arrogant. He says it's not arrogance, it's confidence. Wow. I'll leave that for you guys to decide. But a lot of these guys, they've got to believe in themselves. They've got to have a big ego. They've got to know that they're the ones. They're the top of the tree. If you go in there thinking you're not going to win, or you go in there like with a sort of a bit of a meek attitude, oh, I don't know, I'm just Eddie Hall, I'm just here for fun. You've got to go in and attack it. And you've seen the way he's gone for everything he's done. He's done everything he said he would, apart from the log press, which he could probably try again. I think he will. And he might even try again at the axle, because he's probably got a bit more in the tank there. It's just a matter of how he wants to do it, because he's done a lot of TV shows recently. He's lost a lot of weight. Does he want to undo all that work, put back on all that weight? Because he really needs to be as big as possible, to be as strong as possible. I don't think he would want to do that unless the money was amazing. It would have to be really financially worth it for him, because he's got so much on the go right now. He's doing, the History Channel have got them doing this video with Bryan and Nick Best and Robert Oberst. He's got his own food challenge where he travels around America. Eddie Eats America. He set up a barbershop for his wife in his manager's gym. He's probably got all sorts of other things on the go. I don't think he's got time to cut all that out and then suddenly, balloon back up and put himself at risk. A lot of this, the weight cutting was health. He had issues with his heart. I heard that when he actually competed at Worlds in 2017, he failed the ECG test. So they do heart checks and things like that. So generally you wouldn't be able to compete, and he still competed, and he was massive, and he must have been pushing all the boundaries to the red line the whole time, and that's why he was smashing those weights. He was smashing the squat and the overhead on the Viking press. He was cruising a lot of it. That the static stuff, he was just at his absolute peak. And go back and watch some of his videos around those times. He's the strongest guy. He's the strongest presser that ever lived. Even stronger than Zydrunas. He hasn't broken the log press record, but you look at that bench press. I mean, the bench press in 240 kilos, 260 kilos for reps on a long wobbly bar. He used that for bench press and squat. And, the rate at which he was able to suddenly increase his strength over those short amount of years was just crazy. But I don't see Eddie coming back to do full strongman competitions. You might catch him do a Giants live show. I think he's always able to dip his toe in if he wanted to. Maybe do Britain's Strongest Man. He might decide he wants to challenge Hicksy and take his title back. I don't know how happy he was about handing that trophy over when he probably felt he could have taken him. But he wasn't there. He didn't compete, or he was there. He didn't compete. So next year that would be a turnout for the books if Eddie came back. Britain's Strongest Man. I don't think he'd bother with Europe. So I think Thor might be a bit too much for him at the moment. Thor's on a bit of a rampage. Take that injury aside, he's won virtually every show for the last 6 or 7 shows that he's done. So Thor, hoping he gets well too. And so the next question was from David Forbes. It says, Thor has been a lot likable the past year. He used to come off as a poor sport. By the way, he congratulated Martin, but the way he congratulated Martins was very noble. I think we see what we see and we don't see what we don't see. I've met Thor twice in person, and I had no problems with him. He made me wait a little bit for a photo, but probably didn't want a photo with me anyway. But yeah, he other than that, I mean, he gets on really well with his coach Sebastian Oreb from Australia, the Australian strength coach. He gets on really well with Graham Hicks, and I like Graham a lot and talk to him on the phone. So Graham's a nice guy. Lawrence likes Thor. He went over and trained with him also. And I've seen lots of, and the other side of it, I've seen lots of fans. They fly out to Iceland on holiday, probably specifically to go and visit his gym. And they're in there. They train with him. They've done truck pulls with him, had photographs. And I just think that's great. If that's genuinely what he's like and he's genuine, then I think that's really great. And the last few months, he has come across really well in the videos. And he's very family orientated. You can see he's got his father in the gym, his grandfather helping create the new gym, doing all the sort of the building works. He got married recently, so congratulations for that. And he finished off Game of Thrones season 8. So hopefully now, with less filming involved, unless he's got lots of movies coming up that we haven't heard about, hopefully he can concentrate a bit more on Strongman, and we can see him do a bit more, dominating. He's got the World Ultimate Strongman coming up in, I think it's October. So it'd be great to see Thor do some other stuff, but we want him to do some Strongman because that's what we know him for, and that's what he's good at. What else have we got here? Oh, Tim saying he likes my idea of the multiple events and everyone doing everything. Yeah, a lot of us have spoke about that. Cale Beck on Starting Strongman also agrees. Kind of, it's not his idea, but he's mentioned it. I'd thought about it. Everyone kind of likes that way of working it. I'm not sure if it's similar to Fortissimus, which was another strongman competition that has not been done for a few years. Just lots of events. Everyone does everything. That leaves a lot more chance for people to claw back, because if you've only got 4 events or 5 events, then one bad event and you're done. And it's kind of, that's not fair on everyone, is it? So I think that would be a better way to do it. Remember there we go. I didn't see that. Sorry, Dave. Dave said, remember Fortissimus in Montreal? That contest was insane. There was like 10 or 12 events or something like that. And that's exactly what I just said. So I didn't see that. So yeah, that's the sort of thing we're thinking about. Maybe a hybrid of something that's not around, or 2 events and 3 events split over 2 days. Arnold's technically is a Friday, a Saturday, and a Sunday in Ohio. So they have scope to do 6 events, 2 a day. Because what happens is they sort of cram 3 events in on the Saturday, with one of them being quite late at night. And then the guys have got to hang around. And then Sunday, they're all sort of, I suppose they've got obligations to be on their booths and things, sort of promoting, but they could definitely do that around the other events, because there's loads of downtime at the Arnold. It's like a whole day. And the events are like half an hour or an hour a piece. So definitely something to think about. The reality is prize money and sponsorships determine the top event. The Arnold has the prize money and therefore wins the athletes. From Cesar De Haro. Yeah, I suppose so. But again, World Ultimate Strongman in Dubai has stumped up more money than the Arnold now. So the winner gets a bigger sort of share of the pot, if you will. So that's going to change a few things. And this year we saw a $50,000 deadlift opportunity at Arnold's, and Giants Life are doing the same. So if anyone can break the 501 kilos next weekend, then they'll get $50,000. But I think Giants are pretty confident no one's going to pull it. If Eddie Hall was suggesting he was going to come into the mix, I think you might find they'd take that offer away, because not right now, obviously, but if he was where he was last time and he'd already pulled it once, I think they know he had another 10 kilos in there. So they wouldn't be quite happy to chuck up quite so much money. What else have we got here? Tim, you need characters like Eddie to give the sport more exposure. Yeah, everyone needs characters. Lawrence has created a bit of a character. He grew a beard and he didn't have that before. Tattoos and things like that. Like Janash has got some tattoos, and he's got his bulges on his back there. Everyone's got their own little character. Dimitar was sort of the circus strongman. Bryan Shaw was just giant strongman, and then Hathor came along as well. And he's kind of the mountain from Game of Thrones. So there's lots of other people following him for that reason, and not just strongman. You had Eddie Hall with his Mohican. Rob Kearney's come onto the scene. He's got a coloured Mohican. I think Rob Kearney needs to sort himself out. I think he needs some what do I call it? Rainbow wraps. I keep posting and commenting. So he needs a sponsor to go along and sort him out with some rainbow wrist wraps and rainbow knee wraps. It go very well with his leggings. But yeah, at the moment he hasn't got them. I think he's SBD, so maybe SBD can sort him out. I think that would definitely brighten up him as a character and give him a bit more of a, it make it a bit more of a show, and also give him something to sell to customers and to the fans. Because Rob's got his t-shirts. If you haven't checked it out, check out his page. He sells shirts with a unicorn on the front. But I just think a couple more products, that'd be cool. It's always nice when the guys are bringing out stuff. Like Eddie Hall had lots of t-shirts for sale. Bryan Shaw's got loads of t-shirts, hats, all sorts of stuff. Check out the website. And Big Z as well, he's got his t-shirts. So, and Martin's as well, recently set up a shop. So if you're looking at following some of the guys, it's nice to get some of their athlete kit, because a few years ago you couldn't get anything. You had to kind of make something yourself, or there was just like one place to get a few sort of basic items from the World's Strongest Man store. They still have that option to buy World's Tops, and you can choose the athlete on the back, but we just found the quality wasn't great. So Giants Live have a store as well. They have better quality hoodies and t-shirts. It's always nice to have some strongman stuff. What else we got here? Where's I'm Bibby at? I'm Bibby decided that he wasn't quite ready for Worlds this year, and he wanted to wait another year. I hope he doesn't wait too long, because he might miss it. He might miss his peak. I mean, he did really well. He had a couple of he missed one lift in the log press, and maybe it knocked his confidence. He's still training. He still looks fit. He's a big guy, but you need to be big to be strong. So maybe he's working on his conditioning, or maybe he had something wrong with him, which is why he was unable to compete the first time. But I'm hoping to see Iron Bibby compete. I was desperate to see him the first time. He was the new character. He was like a beefed up Mr. T from the A-Team, right up my alley, but from the 80s. I thought, this guy's going to do some serious damage in the overhead press. He'd beaten Lawrence Charlet previously when they were both fitting well in a frame carry and a yoke run. So we're not messing around. The guy's got skills, but unfortunately he just didn't make Worlds that year. So hoping he comes back, and hoping he competes next year. He just needs to qualify. So he's actually at Wembley next weekend, I believe. So if he does well there, then he gets his space. So fingers crossed for Bibby. We want to see you there, man. We want to see you compete. What does it say here? They had lots of logistical problems, but overall it was cool, and the weights were ridiculously heavy. That's what we want. That was one of the heaviest contests I've ever seen, and everyone was okay. Everyone, no injuries that I'm aware of, and it was hot, man. It was really hot out there. So similar to Worlds, I suppose. It's always hot wherever they do these shows. It's always ridiculously hot, and Bryan doesn't like it. Hathor doesn't like it. None of the guys. They're all in these air-conditioned tents. Why can't they find somewhere a little bit cooler? Maybe they missed the trick. Maybe Hathor being the champion last year, they should have gone back. They could have gone back to Iceland. I don't think it's too hot over there, but they could have done it there. Really great scenery, mountains in the backgrounds. Hathor could have really shown them around, and they could have done a mini montage of the area. Really promoted Iceland, because it's quite a small country with a very small population. Maybe they like it that way. Maybe they don't want us coming over there and ruining it for them. But it would have been nice to see it in Iceland again, I think, with the Husafell Stone and various other legendary events that they've got over there. I don't think anyone finished the stones in the arm over arm. Bryan finished the stones. No one finishes the arm over arm. Yeah, arm over arm's a difficult one. They had it at Worlds last year with like a bus, and there's some people that are just pulling it with just literally using arms and bicep power. Other people are pulling with everything they've got, using their arms and their legs. I'm not a fan of it. Bryan didn't like it. I don't think Hathor didn't finish it from memory. They took their gloves off. Any event where the guys don't finish, I just don't know. I think everyone should be able to finish it. I think it's difficult though, because everyone's at different levels, aren't they? So some people are stronger than others. So not everyone's going to finish everything. But when you see like the top guys struggling, you know that it's kind of a bit heavy. The monster truck pull, it caused a few injuries, but it looked awesome. Maybe if they had, I don't know, they're kind of a bigger one, can they? But they had two this year. one would have been fine, but then it would have been too fast. So maybe a further distance. But again, I'm not there. I don't know what the logistics are on the distances and stuff. They have a road closed off sort of either side with fans lining up either side, and they've only got a certain amount of time, I suppose, to run the show and to get the event done. If Sven Carlson and Magnus Samuelsson were younger and doing World's Strongest Man now, they would have been huge on social media. Yeah, those two guys, massive characters, still talked about today. Still doing things. I've seen Sven's doing stuff on TV. Magnus is doing stuff on TV. I think he's in Vikings. It's like a TV show, a little bit like Game of Thrones. So those guys definitely they brought a lot to the table, and they helped move the sport through that sort of decade that they were competing. A bit like John Paul Sigmarsson and Jeff Capes and Bill Kazmaier. Those are the legendary guys that started this. There were other athletes that won and did well, but those three kind of, for me, from the start to sort of, I don't know, late 80s, they were World's Strongest Man. And you tune in and those were the names you knew. They had their names on their T-shirt, it just had Jeff on the front or Kaz. I think I even saw an athlete wearing a Kaz one in the World's Strongest Man. So he must have forgot his T-shirt and Kaz has gone and lent him his. And you've got another athlete with Kaz on. So that wouldn't happen now. But back in the 80s, I suppose they did whatever they could to make it happen. I'm from the 80s too, yeah. Glad there's another 80s boy in the house. I was born in 1980, but yeah, I love the 80s. 80s is good. It's where World's Strongest Man started to take off, and it's where I remember it from, I suppose. Iron Bibby's technique looks so bad, pretty much anything, but he's so absurdly strong, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, Bibby's really strong. He's putting up overhead presses of over 220 kilos from the rack with a bar. He's deadlifting over 350 kilos, but he's got to do a full comp. He's done a full comp with giants and he's done okay, but I think he just needs to keep going and keep doing it. And the more practice he gets and the more times he has a go, maybe he'll be a bit more confident and a bit less hesitant. I don't think he's doing anything else. I've not seen him doing movies. I've not seen him doing any other shows. Giants live shows and World's Strongest Man is his goal that I'm aware of. He wants to be the World's Strongest Man. Everybody wants to be the World's Strongest Man. I just think he needs to get in and do it. So I think next year, fingers crossed, everything good for Bibby. He gets a good heat, and he's at full power, full strength, full health. It would be good to see. Because when I started promoting him like online, just sharing videos of his, people were like, oh, it's a bit like when Larry's come onto the scene. People didn't like it. They were like, this guy hasn't earned his spot. Who is he? He's just a YouTube guy or whatever. But actually, Bibby had done quite well at a local competition in Canada. He came over and did a show in the UK and won the crowd over. And his overhead press was up there within the world. So yes, the press got him into where he is. A bit like Larry Wheels, his overhead press is very strong. He's not just all right, he's very good. And learning those techniques, I didn't believe in a million years he'd be able to lift a 200 kilo log. You saw him at Hathor's gym initially trying, I think it was 140 and struggling, and then a couple more sessions, 150, 160, 180. People were getting excited at 180 because he'd only been training log for a couple of weeks and just the crazy progress he made. And then he hit that 202.5, I think it was, at the Giants live show. Bit debatable. It looks good from the front angle, but from the side angle, he wasn't under control, in my opinion. And I don't think it would normally have been given. But they gave him the rep, and he's probably capable of doing it properly now and holding it at the top, controlled, good from all angles. So we'll get to see how Larry gets on with the Wembley show next week, because that's when he's going to be over in the UK for a full show. I think he's here now. There's a video of him doing a Hercules hold. So he's here already in the country. So he's clearly testing the equipment out, hanging out with Darren Sadler, and just trying to get himself used to the setup as much as possible, so that when it's game time next Saturday night, he's fully ready to do his best. And I wish him all the best. I hope he doesn't bomb out. I hope he doesn't get embarrassed. I hope he does do well in one or two events. I don't think he's going to make the podium, but hopefully he'll turn some haters into some fans. Hopefully he doesn't need any more fans. He's got lots of fans, but hopefully people will be a bit more respectful online. He is a great athlete. He's done really great things in powerlifting. He's had a go at bodybuilding, and he will hold his own in strongman. But I just think if it starts to get really heavy in terms of heavy moving events, that's where his body weight is going to let him down. He needs to pack on a bit more size. I don't know if that's on his list of things to do. He said it was, but that was months ago, and he hasn't got any bigger. So maybe he's got that image. He wants to keep his image. He doesn't want to be a big, oversized, strong man. He wants to prove you can do it and still have abs. So we will see. We'll see how he gets on next weekend. What else we got here? Mateus needs to get his powerlifting total up. No one would be able to handle him. Yeah, I mean, Mateus is really great, but there are some other guys that are really good at powerlifting, like Graham Hicks. He's going out to do Big Dogs 3 or 4. I think it's Big Dogs 4, actually, in, I think it's Australia later on in the year. And he's been hitting a 250 kilo bench press. Squatting 350 is easy for him. I think he's done 400, and he's deadlifted 405 without straps. So the deadlift is going to differentiate Graham from a lot of the other powerlifters that have been doing it for years. Graham's not one of the taller athletes. He's not short either. He's like 5'11" or 5'10". He's around my height, but he's really broad, and he's really filled out. He was a 105 competitor, and he's made it, and he's done really good things in the opens category. So he's Britain's strongest man currently. He's currently got the British log press record as well. So yeah, Graham Hicks is definitely one to watch this year. He's doing UK Strongest Man now. That's another show that he didn't do last year. I sort of said to him he should, and for whatever reason, it didn't happen. Because I thought it'd be cool if, a bit like Eddie, he could be, Britain's and UK's. It's the same title, but different promoters have their own competition. So yeah, I think Graham's going to do really well at Big Dogs. I think he's going to make a name for himself in powerlifting. And you never know, maybe powerlifting's his thing. Maybe that will be more, or maybe he'll do both. Guys can do it. I know people like Hathor have had a go at powerlifting. Maybe they need that challenge. Maybe they need to, in the downtime, in the sort of winter months when there's less strongman competitions and they need to either earn money or they want to compete, then powerlifting is definitely an option for everyone. Sometimes Hicks competes really fat and sometimes he competes lean. Yeah, I know what you mean. He gets kind of big and then he cuts down a bit. When he's really big, like more recently, not going back a few years, but more recently, when he's really big, he's just really crazy strong. I've seen him do some log presses like they were nothing, and then other times he struggled a little bit. Usually struggled when he's sort of cut a little bit of weight. But he was on target to do really good things at Britain's, and he came away with the title. He sent me some videos, and we were talking before. And yeah, Graham's in the best shape of his life right now, and I think he's doing really well. And I hope he does really well at Big Dogs. So good luck for Graham, and he should win UK Strongest Man, in my opinion. It's a case of he's the Hathor coming in there. He's not an amateur. He's professional. The other guy's a professional strongman too, but he's professional to like an elite level. He's done Giants live shows. He's done the World's Strongest Man multiple times. So I think Graham will do. I think he will win UK Strongest Man. But we will see if anyone can challenge him. It'd be interesting because Graham's never done it before. So fingers crossed for Graham. UK Strongest Man and Britain's Strongest Man would be good to hold this year if he can. Nick Best has always been very active in powerlifting and strongman. Yeah, Nick Best is I think he was a powerlifter before he was a strongman. So yeah, Nick's done lots of powerlifting and always competes in both. And I think as Nick gets older, it gets maybe it gets a bit better for him because he gets more opportunities to do masters comps as well as sort of the normal, not going to call it the juniors, but the normal World's Strongest Man and sort of the normal powerlifting wise, he'd have to go into like a masters 2 or a masters category, I guess. But yeah, Nick as he gets older should find some other opportunities opening up for him. It makes me laugh when you think Mariusz Pudzianowski was banned for World's Strongest Man for taking drugs and Larry wasn't. Well, times have changed. They probably need to. I think if that's something the guys are going to start talking about or not, or want to talk about, or if the promoters aren't going to want that on TV. It's not going to be part of World's Strongest Man show. Everyone gets tested. People take certain things. There's supplements, vitamins, things that the guys are doing now to make them stronger, are things that weren't available 20 years ago. But everyone will do everything they can to win the sport. Hathor said that in a video of his own. But I just don't think it's fair to put people on the spot. They do what they do because it's what they love doing. It's the job that they do. It kind of comes with the territory, same as bodybuilders. And I think I was a bit naive up until a few years ago. 100 meters runners, anyone in athletics is going to do something to give them that edge. There may be a few clean athletes running it in the Olympics, but there's always people getting banned, pulled up. And I think there's just no way of controlling it. It's a bit like the internet. You can't stop everyone. You can't turn certain things off and turn certain things on. I think if people want to enjoy the strongest man on the world in the world, then that's part of the show, part of the process. Where do you think Kaz would be in today's tech, medicine, preparation, etc.? Yeah, a lot of people say that if Kazmai was in today's World's Strongest Man, he'd be pretty much a bit like Eddie Hall, really. He'd be really, really aggressively attacking the events. And I think he's coming back next weekend again. He's going to be going head to head with Magnus Ver Magnusson, doing a Hercules hold. So they're going to be, locking horns, doing this for time. And Kaz is going to want to, he's going to want to beat Magnus, because it's been a long time since he's competed in a live show on TV. And I think he doesn't want to be embarrassed. Not that he would be, but I just think, Magnus has got a good grip. Kaz is just that guy that just never gives up, and he's got a lot of fire inside him, and he still really wants it. So yeah, I think he would do really well. But I did see some pictures of him against, sort of stood against Hafthor, and the size difference is crazy. And there's pictures of me stood next to Kaz, and Kaz is massive compared to me. So it just shows you how it's not the sport that's maybe moved on, but people have got bigger. And these genetic freaks are being born in other countries, and then we're bringing them to the show and putting them all together and creating the world's strongest man. But I think, I think Kaz would do really well in today's times with today's sort of sports, techniques and the recovery methods and the food and everything that's changed in the last 30 years, because it has been 30 years. I think he'd do really well. But he's going to be back on Saturday next weekend. So let's see what he's got. See what he's been hiding. I don't think Larry has a frame that can handle being over 300 pounds. Yeah, kind of. You've got these ectomorphs and these people that are sort of thinner than other people. I'm not one of those people anymore. But yeah, I think he will struggle to pack on that weight. Eddie Hall was actually that kind of frame for a while. And he really bulked out, but he had to massively force feed and put on quite a lot of weight and looked more out of shape than in shape. And now he's kind of in the middle. He looks a lot better, but I just don't think Larry's willing to do that and willing to go that far with his body. Even though he's quite young and he probably could bounce back, I just think he doesn't want to go there. He doesn't want to be 400 pounds. 340 pound Larry, 350 pound Larry maybe, but again, he's got to push it more. And how far is he pushing it already? You see pictures of when he started, he was quite a small guy. So maybe he's already maxed out on his frame. He's not massively tall either. So it would be quite hard for him to hit the sort of weights that the guys are doing. So we'll see how he fares next weekend. I don't think Larry, here we go. Larry's skeleton isn't as big as Pizzle, Vital, and Larry's not that shape. Larry's he's very much like a classic physique bodybuilder. He's very big, but he's got quite a small waist, very small, I'm going to say very small calves, but he's got small legs. They're not tree trunks. They're not, he's not a massive guy. But that's because of the way he trains, or maybe it's genetics. And he even built the way he is and shaped the way he is. He's pulling over 400 kilos on a deadlift, and he's overhead pressing 200 kilos, and he's bench pressing over 300 kilos. So, do you need to be that big? And this is where Bryan Shaw's losing a bit of weight now. Does he need to be that big, or can he retain the same level of strength, cut some weight, and be faster at these moving events? Will that help him in the loading medleys? Will that help him on the stones? Because he was lifting massively heavy stones years ago before he was this big. So maybe the size has become a bit of an obsession, and you just want to be this monster. And he looks awesome. I mean, Bryan and Hafthor both look awesome when you bump into them at these expos. They're just massive. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens next year with the guys changing their weights, changing their sizes. Will Larry bulk up? Will he win? Will he get knocked out this next weekend at the show? He's perfectly built for powerlifting. Yeah, I mean, he's probably got long levers, long arms, and he's done it for quite a while. And to break the records he has, he must be perfectly built for it. It says, I don't think he cuts it at the highest level of strongman or bodybuilding. No, so powerlifting is probably where he's best suited. But fair play to him for coming over and doing it. So he's done really well at powerlifting. He's won things. He's had a go at bodybuilding and realised probably won't win what he wants to win, like make the Olympia. And I think his aim was actually just to get a pro card. But I don't think he realizes that the bodybuilding side of it, you can't just do it part-time. You can't just sort of rock up looking okay. They really cut really hardly, really harshly. They work their diets for very long periods of time, for months and months and months. You can't just do that for a few weeks, go and do a powerlifting show, bit of strongman, and then hit the stage. I just think he's trying to do too much. But what he has done in the meantime is he's built a fan base in powerlifting, a fan base in bodybuilding, and some of a fan base in strongman. So he's kind of stealing all the fans. Is a smart move by him. He's also doing his own products. He's doing his own supplements. He's doing his own wrist wraps and belts, and that's where he's in control, and that's why he's doing so well financially. And that's what it's about, I suppose. It's it's his job, and he's making a bit of a go for it at the moment. Has Terry Hollands done the bodybuilding show yet? No, I think his show September. I think he said he's training. He's doing these photographs online, and he's cutting quite a lot. I don't think his show's for a little while, or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it isn't. It's a couple of weeks. I don't know. I thought it was September, or maybe he was coming back to Strongman in September. So I have to check his page out. I'm not sure off the top of my head. But yeah, he's looking really great. He's lost loads and loads of weight. So to go from what he was looking like in these photos to what he looks like now, it's just crazy. He's a different person. I know he used to say he used to have, he used to like drinking and stuff. And he doesn't drink much now, if at all. But yeah, I think he looks really, really great. Kate Harrington, who's his wife-to-be, they're getting married now. They're really happy, and that's good to see because Terry's a really nice guy. Terry's been here. He's, I've done some seminars with Terry as well. So I spoke to him about other stuff. It's always nice when you get them kind of one-to-one and you're not like a fan in a line and just get a photograph, and you get to know the people. And Terry Hollands is a nice guy. Some people say he looks miserable, and I think he probably agrees. I think he called it his resting bitch face. but no, Terry's a genuinely nice guy. He came and did quite a few seminars with me, met loads of fans. He likes to have a muck around, a bit of a laugh, go out for a party. So yeah, Terry's a fun guy. And I think it's probably killing him actually, because he does like to enjoy himself. So having to be on such a strict diet and not drinking and eating certain foods at certain times to the level that he's doing it right now, it's got to be hard. I mean, I can't do it, and not many people can, but he's doing it, and he's really shed so much weight. So he's kind of like, but when Zydrunas did it, Zydrunas didn't even go to that level, but Terry's lost 50 kilos, I think he said, in body weight. And then once he's done his bodybuilding show, he's in control. Then it's like you've built, you've bulked for 20 years, you've put on all this muscle, you've now cut back at a sort of older age. Terry's my age, he's a year older, he's 40 now. So he's going to be in the best shape of his life, and he can then gradually start to increase his size to where he wants to be. He's not where he was before, where he was, 30 kilos overweight, out of shape, slow, still strong, but he frame, but build where he wants to build. And you can see where his weaknesses are, because you would have, covered a lot of that up, and where it's all, shredded and cut back now, he should be able to see what he needs to work on. But Terry made the podium twice. He got 2 third places. So he's no slouch at strongman. He's been there for quite a few years now. He made the final 9 times in a row. He did some commentary for a year. He's taken this year off. He's going to come back next year. So excited to see Terry back and see him at his best. And he, it's going to be similar sort of shape to Tom Stoltman, because Tom's bulked up and Terry's shrunk down. So between, you stick them next to each other. I think Tom's a little bit taller, but they're going to be similar physique. And Tom came 5th. So it'd be interesting to see where they're at. I think Terry's only weakness really is his overhead press, compared to other events that he's good at. He's done a 450 kilo deadlift in the gym. He was always really good at moving events. Farmers and yokes were always his really good events. He was always head-to-head with Lawrence Charlet. But Loz is not around for a year, and I can imagine if he does do Worlds next year, he said he won't be back, but if he did just change his mind, he's going to be really fresh off of recovery, So Terry's got everything to go for when he comes back. So it'd be interesting to see how he does. He should be better for speed events now. Yeah. So yeah, Terry will be definitely better for speed events, and it'd be interesting to see him on the bodybuilding stage. I mean, I know he's like practicing his posing and stuff, and it's a completely out of his comfort zone sort of thing. Something he probably always thought about doing, but never had the time to do it. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he does. But yeah, back to the original message of the video. I got a bit sidetracked there with the questions, but yeah. So Audrina Savickas, he's back next year, 2020. He's coming back for World's Strongest Man. He's actually started competing in a few sort of local shows recently, winning a team show in Lithuania. He potentially will come back September time, is what he told me the last time we spoke. So hoping to see him at the World's Ultimate Strongman in Dubai, and also at the Giants live show, the Giants World Tour in September. I think that's Manchester. Those are the two shows he could really get his teeth into. He's got to qualify for Worlds as well. So I don't think he gets a pass. I mean, if anyone got a pass, Zydrunas should get one. But I think they won't want to do that. They want him to qualify. So that will really be the test. Will he have to qualify? And if he does have to qualify, can he qualify? So yeah, Big Z's coming back next year, expecting big things from him, hoping that the nerve damage that's been treated is all good. His overhead press is back stronger. His deadlifts are back stronger. And we get to see Z coming back and really competing against the other people. It says, how will Big Z have to change his game? Sometimes injuries force you to change your preparation approach. Yeah, he's definitely going to be currently working around that injury, and he has been for a few years now. But hopefully, if they've really got to whatever it was, this nerve damage in his neck with these plasma injections and this other stuff that they've been doing, it all sounds a bit fancy, really. Hopefully, he must be getting scans, X-rays, and it's showing repair. But other than that, if you imagine, it's just this one area is affecting so many of his lifts. Like if he's pulling or if he's pressing, everything else is fine. So it's only one part of his body. It's not an age issue. This is the thing. Everyone thinks it's his age. It's not his age. He's injured. It's nerve damage, and nerve means that certain parts of his body are not firing correctly. So if he can get that back, I think he can move with the best of them when he needs to. Zydrunas was always quick at medleys, quick at farmers. Good with yokes, good with logs, 4 times world's strongest man. That's why he's it's one of the greatest. He's the greatest. He won't have the big belly to rest that bar on anymore. No, that's true. But Zydrunas will probably bulk up again. So he cuts down to 150 kilos, 155, and he likes his fighting weight sort of 180 kilos, 185 kilos. I think when he got to like real Big Z, when you see these big pictures of him, where I don't know if it's actually CGI or if it's not CGI, but you know what I mean? Someone's played with that photo. There's one of him where it's side on and he looks massive. I think the biggest he got up to was like 230 pounds, 220 pounds. That's a lie, 420 pounds. So yeah, sort of 210 kilos, something like that. And it's too big. I mean, Z's 6'3", and so he's not as tall as Bryan or Hafthor. He's a smidge taller than Eddie Hall. So he ends up looking like Eddie used to look when he was at his biggest, and it's too big. So I don't think he needs to be now either, especially if they've lowered the weights down. When I saw him at Wembley some years ago, his belly was massive. Yeah, but I know what you mean. He looks like he's pregnant, but that's what Big Z's known for. But it works. I mean, he used to rest that bar on his belly, pop up the bar. Cool, because some of those axles are really heavy. I've mucked around with some light stuff, and I've got a little bit of a belly, but when the bar pops down, it'll just slide down and hit you on the belt. And sometimes they don't allow belt cleans, so it definitely comes into play. And he obviously uses it for more than just that. The log press, pulls it in, lifts it up, and it acts as a shelf. So it has its place. Not the best looking thing, but he's not worried about that. He's worried about winning titles and being strongest you can. And to be strong, you don't want to be skinny. You need to be, muscular, and you need to have support in the right areas, I suppose, is the easiest way of putting it. And was that and nosebleeds? Yeah. Mikhail Shivlyakov doing the deadlift in the Arnold Classic. That will go down in history. There's too much pressure on the body, and then the guys start to bleed, sometimes from the sides of their heads. Zydrunas one year doing the squat, and Mikhail was bleeding from his nose, and it was just going everywhere. But it can't be helped, but you've got to be careful. These guys are putting their bodies under massive pressure. Sometimes before they're even lifting, their blood pressure is going to be really high. Those body weights on TV, real or less than real weight? What does it say? Are those body weights on TV real or less than real weight? What do you mean, Giuseppe? I don't know what you mean. Body weights on TV? I mean, all the weights the guys are lifting are real. So all the weights at World's Strongest Man and the Arnold Classic, they usually have like a little sticker on the side that will say 770 pounds, like on the squat. But all the weights they use are real. Nothing's fake. There's a couple of guys doing fake lifts on YouTube, people like Brad Castlebury. Oh, here we go. Are those body weights on TV real or less than the real weight? As in 185 for Big Z? No, I think they're real. Big Z mentioned those numbers to me. So 150 odd, 155 in his off season, 185 is his competition weight. I always think add 5 kilos, 190. be a bit more, just bring a bit more beef to the show. Does it say there? I think it means the athlete's weight. Yeah, that's the athlete's weight, the body weight, their actual, how much they weigh. So I'm in England, so we weigh ourselves in stones and pounds. So I'm 14 stone 4 pounds. I'm not sure what that is in kilos. It's not very heavy, about 92 or something like that, maybe 93. But yeah, so to be 185 kilos is a lot. That's like twice my body weight. So you're looking at 26 stone, 28 stone in body weight. And in pounds, you just have to convert your kilos to pounds. So that will give you your body weight of the athlete. But yeah, okay, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. I only expected to do like a really quick 10-minute video. I just wanted to test out the live stream. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. I might do it again. I'll have to think of some other things to talk about because we've kind of covered loads of stuff. But yeah, an hour and 16 minutes. Yeah, I've got tomorrow off as well. And next weekend, I might do it while they're doing the Giants live show. It'd be interesting. I wanted to talk to you guys whilst the show's happening because some countries can't get it. Although I think it's a live stream on the Giants Live website. So go to officialstrongman.com and you have to pay like £10 a month to subscribe. So if you're just wanting to watch that one show, then just set up your subscription, pay for this month, cancel it at the end of this month, and then wait for the next show and you can pay then. Alternatively, they do packages, so you can pay for 3 months or 6 months. It's always better to buy it in bulk. So if you wanted to pay for a year, it might be something like £70, which sounds expensive, but it gives you access to all of the old archive videos from Official Strongman. So you can go back and watch the old World's Strongest Man, but the old Giants Live qualifiers. And it also means that wherever you live in the world, you can watch Britain's Strongest Man, Europe's Strongest Man. So for £70, I mean, I don't go to the cinema very much now. I'm just a bit obsessed with Strongman. But yeah, if you want to watch anything Strongman wise, I would recommend it. They're not paying me for this. I don't work for Giants, but the content's good. It's HD quality. They're driving around the country filming all the athletes. There'll be videos with log pressing from Big Z, deadlifting from Eddie Hall, Aaron Page in Southampton, my local strongman. He's done some videos too. So anyway, I'll leave it there, guys. Have a great Sunday. Thanks for watching the stream, and hopefully we'll do it again sometime. Catch you later. Bye.